Think about the most financially together person you know. Maybe it's a coworker, a neighbor, maybe a family member. They probably own a home. They've got some retirement savings. They've got a side income, maybe two. And somehow they're still anxious, like all the time. That's not a personality flaw. That's a Gen Xer. Here's what I found. According to Transamerica's 2025 retirement report, Gen X, people born between 1995 and 1980, has the second highest 401k contribution rate of any generation. They save more than most. They earn more than most. They've built more assets than most. And 70% of them are terrified they won't have enough money to retire. That is not a contradiction. That is a completely rational response to specific economic experiences that most of us either forgot or never had. Once you understand what actually happened to Gen X, their money habits don't just make sense. They look like a survival playbook. And right now in 2025, with AI reshaping jobs and instability becoming the new normal, they look like the right playbook. Here are the 7 Gen X money habits that look weird from the outside, but are actually brilliant from the inside, and at least one of them is going to make you rethink what you're doing with your money right now. There's a concept in psychology called betrayal trauma. It's what happens when a system you trusted, an institution, a set of rules, a promise, completely breaks. The trust doesn't just fade, it shatters, and it permanently changes how you make decisions. Gen X didn't experience one betrayal. They experienced 3. 1991 recession. Many of them walked out of college into a job market that had just collapsed. No jobs. Debt. Promises broken before they even started. 2001. Dot-com crash and 9/11. Just as they were building momentum, the entire game changed overnight. Companies evaporated. Careers pivoted by force. 2008. This one was the gut punch. They had done everything right. They owned homes. They had 401ks. They had built loyalty with companies they believed in. And they watched it all cut in half. In some cases, disappear completely. Here's the thing. When you've been burned 3 times by the system, you don't trust the system anymore. You build redundancy. You prepare for the system to fail again, even while you're still participating in it. And right now, with AI automating white-collar work at a pace we've never seen before, with geopolitical instability, with inflation doing what it does, what Gen X does with money doesn't look like paranoia anymore. It looks like preparation. Let's break down exactly how their money psychology works and what we can copy from it. Here's something that seems contradictory until you get it. Gen X saves obsessively for a retirement they're not sure they'll ever fully reach. Psychologists call this defensive pessimism. You assume the worst is coming, so you prepare as if it is. And when it arrives, you're covered. For Gen X, this looks like maxing the 401k because you don't trust Social Security to be there. Keeping 6 months of expenses in cash because you remember 2008. Having an emergency fund and backup savings because you've lived through a real emergency, not a theoretical one. Transamerica 2025 puts the Gen X median retirement savings at $107,000 in total household accounts. Now, that's not where experts say you need to be. They say closer to 1 million by a retirement. But here's the nuance. That a 107K median is dragged down by people who started late or got wiped in 2008 and had to rebuild. The Gen Xers who started saving in their 30s and stayed consistent, many of them are on track or ahead. They don't believe the system will work perfectly. They do it anyway. Because not doing it is worse. The takeaway right now. Don't wait until you feel good about the economy to start saving. Gen X taught us, save because the system might fail, not because you trust it will deliver. Every financial article calls Gen X the original side hustlers. Federal Reserve data backs that up. They have higher rates of self-employment and secondary income streams than both boomers and millennials. But here's what nobody explains correctly. They're not doing it because they love entrepreneurship. They're doing it because they watched their parents get walked out of companies with a cardboard box after 20 years of loyalty. Not theory, something I tracked in multiple places. It's 1992. You're 18 years old. Your mom works at a company that just announced a mass layoff. People who've been there since before you were born, gone. No warning. Just a 2-week severance and a form letter. That image doesn't leave you. And it creates a financial rule that gets hardwired into every decision. Never depend on one source of income. Not because you're entrepreneurial, because you are terrified. So the Etsy shop, the rental property, the consulting project on the side, it's not ambition, it's insurance. Here's the thing about today. AI is restructuring white-collar jobs at a pace we haven't seen before. Jobs that felt secure, accounting, legal review, customer support, content creation, are being automated or restructured. Gen X saw this movie in a different form and never stopped building escape tunnels. The takeaway? Don't wait for a job threat to build a second income stream. Build it now while you're still employed. That's the lesson Gen X learned the hard way, and the hard way is expensive. Here's the one that confuses people most. Gen X has the highest average credit card debt of any generation, 9,600 according to Experian 2025. And they're saving obsessively. And they spend about $3,000 a year on concerts, travel, and live experiences, more than any other generation in actual dollars. How does that make sense? It makes complete sense when you understand what 2008 taught them. Your house can go underwater. Your 401k can get cut in half in 6 months. Your car loses value the minute you drive off the lot. Your stuff means nothing when the economy tanks. But that Pearl Jam concert from 1994? Nobody can repossess that memory. The experience spending isn't financial irresponsibility. It's actually a brilliant form of what behavioral economists call hedonic durability. The way experiences create lasting satisfaction that possessions just don't. Gen X figured this out by necessity, not by reading a book about happiness psychology. They save obsessively because systems can't be trusted. They spend on experiences because stuff can't be trusted either. And they're right on both. The takeaway: before you judge someone's travel budget, check whether their emergency fund is intact. For Gen X, experience spending and financial security go together. One doesn't cancel the other. Gen X is the least likely generation to use traditional financial advisors. Cerulli Associates data shows they'd rather research, build spreadsheets, and manage their own portfolios. This seems like antisocial behavior. It's actually anti-institutional behavior. And there's a real difference. Their parents' generation trusted pension managers, company retirement plans, financial advisors, and then watched those same advisors either not see 2008 coming or not warn them in time. When a corporation fails you, all you get is a form letter and an HR phone number. So Gen X went DIY. They read the books, built the spreadsheets, verified everything twice. They trust themselves first. The irony? This made them more financially literate than generations that handed it all to a professional. They know what a Roth IRA is. They know the difference between an index fund and an actively managed fund. They know to read the expense ratio before they sign anything. This matters right now because AI tools can now give you financial analysis that used to cost hundreds of dollars an hour. But you need to bring the financial literacy to use those tools well. Gen X has that literacy because they were forced to develop it. We can choose to develop it. The takeaway: don't outsource your financial understanding even if you hire help. Know what you have, why you have it, and what would happen if your advisor disappeared tomorrow. That's not paranoia. That's ownership. Here's something that surprised me when I dug into the data. Gen X carries the highest total consumer debt of any generation. And they are, by multiple measures, the most strategic generation about how they use debt. How does that work? They drew a hard line between two types of debt. Debt you can map to completion. A mortgage with a fixed 30-year timeline. A business investment with calculable return. An education that increases earning power. These are debts with a clear endpoint. You know exactly what you owe and when it's done. Chaos debt. Credit card balances that roll month to month with no payoff date. Personal loans for things that lose value immediately. Financing a vacation. Debt with no bottom. This is the debt that swallowed their parents in the 80s and 90s, and they watched it happen. The rule they actually use: only borrow what you can map to completion. In today's environment, where variable interest rates can eat your repayment plan alive, this is the exact framework you want. Predictable debt. Clear endpoint. Everything else is a trap. The takeaway. Before you take on any debt, ask yourself, can I draw a clear line from today to the last payment? If you can't answer that question with a specific number and a specific date, it's chaos debt. Don't do it. Here's something that confuses marketers and financial advisors about Gen X. They'll quit a Fortune 500 job via email without a second thought, but they'll drive 20 minutes out of their way for the coffee shop where the owner knows their name. Adobe found Gen Xers are 30% more likely than millennials to stick with brands they used in their youth, even when cheaper alternatives exist. They have zero loyalty to corporations and deep loyalty to specific people and systems they've personally tested. The psychology is straightforward. Institutions betrayed them. People are at least accountable. When a company fails you, you get a severance check and a form letter. When a person fails you, there are consequences. Financially, this shows up in how they invest and who they trust. They're not loyal to the S&P 500 as a concept. They understand it's just a mechanism. They are loyal to specific funds they've watched perform, specific advisors who have demonstrated, not just promised. And in today's AI-driven environment, where financial products are proliferating faster than anyone can evaluate them, this show me, don't tell me approach is worth copying. The takeaway, vet the person, not just the credential. The right financial advisor or partner isn't the one with the most impressive bio. It's the one who's been tested. AARP found that 61% of Gen Xers maintain physical records of important financial documents. Compare that to 34% of millennials. Tax returns, insurance policies, account numbers, estate documents, brokerage statements. This looks old-fashioned until you understand the logic. Gen X literally built the internet. They are not technologically illiterate, but they also remember when companies lost records, when databases crashed, when the system is down meant your financial life was temporarily inaccessible or permanently gone. They trust technology to work most of the time. They trust paper to work all of the time. Digital banking app, yes. Paper statement, also yes. Cloud backup, sure. Fireproof safe, obviously. This is redundancy by design. And in an era where data breaches are routine, passwords get locked, and banks have server outages, this isn't excessive. It's smart risk management. Ask yourself this right now. If you lost access to your phone and your laptop tomorrow, could you prove who you are financially? Could you access your accounts? Could you call your insurance company with a policy number? Gen X can, not because they're paranoid, because they've been through enough system failures to know that digital promises are not guarantees. The takeaway, your most important financial documents should exist in two forms, one digital, one physical. That's it. Not complicated, just redundant. Let's bring this together. Because here's the thing, Gen X didn't develop these habits because they read the right book or found the right financial advisor. They developed them because they had no choice, burned 3 times by systems they'd been told to trust, forced to build redundancy, forced to diversify income, forced to question every institution. And what came out of that pressure is a financial playbook that looks more relevant in 2025 than it ever has. AI disruption, geopolitical instability, interest rate volatility, job market restructuring. Every one of these threats is something Gen X already stress-tested their finances against. They didn't call it building resilience. They called it surviving. Here are the 7 habits, your checklist. Save even when you don't believe it'll be enough, because not saving is worse. Build a second income stream before you need it, not as ambition, as insurance. Spend on experiences. They're the only assets you can't lose in a market crash. Learn your own finances before you trust anyone else with them. Own the literacy. Only borrow what you can map to completion. Chaos debt has no bottom. Vet the person, not just the institution. Trust is earned through testing. Create redundancy. Paper and digital, not either or. Not theory. These are responses to real economic trauma, and they work. If you're watching this and thinking, wait, I should actually start doing some of these things right now, that's the point. Gen X figured this out by being burned by the economy. You don't have to get burned to use their playbook. If this landed for you, subscribe below. Because next week, we're going deeper. looking at how the exact same economic forces that shaped Gen X are now coming from millennials and Gen Z, and what to do about it before it happens. New videos every week. We'll see you there.